What if the next clash between superpowers didn't last months or years, but resolved in a mere 48 hours? Imagine a world where, in 2 days, the map of power could be changed. That's the idea behind the plan we'll tell you about. A plan America could use to lock down the Pacific in just 2 days. The actors are familiar: the United States, China, and Taiwan. And the prize is enormous: control of the sea lanes, technology, and the flow of the global economy. This is not science fiction. Many of the moves we describe have been practiced in war games and exercises for years. What we will do here is explain the plan simply: what happens, who moves, and why it matters. Act 1. The alarm. It begins like any crisis, a signal few can ignore. From space, satellites show a growing Chinese fleet. Hundreds of ships, carriers, destroyers, submarines, and landing vessels move in a line toward Taiwan. State media calls it routine drills. Intelligence analysts call it a possible invasion. In America, leaders decide they cannot wait. The long-standing policy of "we will maybe help if attacked" is shelved. The new order is simple: move first and move fast. The goal is not to wage a long war. The goal is to stop the attack before it can succeed. The clock starts. 48 hours. Taiwan, a small island, does something very large for the world. It makes most of the world's advanced computer chips. Lose Taiwan, and the world's electronics and many industries would face a catastrophic shock. For that reason alone, this moment matters to everyone. Act 2. Wake the fleet. When the order goes out, the American military becomes a single, focused engine. From Pearl Harbor to bases across Asia, ships, planes, and submarines are given new tasks. An aircraft carrier powers up and prepares continuous flight operations. Submarines dive and slip away beneath the waves. Long-range bombers take off with secret loads. Supply aircraft begin a non-stop airlift of fuel, parts, and people. Every piece of hardware does not act alone. They are linked by a web of satellites, radar stations, and secure computer networks. That web shares what every sensor sees, so decisions can be swift. The point is to get in place, quietly, quickly, and everywhere, so that China's window to act is closed before it opens. Allies are part of the plan. Japan, South Korea, the Philippines, and Australia are called. Military bases and airfields across the Pacific prepare to host American forces. The alliance network, built by decades of diplomacy, suddenly functions like a wartime team. What used to be peacetime cooperation turns into shared action. Act 3. The invisible war. Not all fighting happens with visible weapons. Very early in the plan, the U.S. launches cyber and electronic operations. These attacks confuse enemy communications, block satellite links, and make radar readings unreliable. To the people watching in command centers, equipment seems to fail for no reason. That confusion buys time. At the same time, American satellites and intelligence aircraft paint a continuous picture of what's happening on the water. Drones and high-altitude planes watch and wait for any sign of Chinese ships or aircraft moving to attack. The defenders use that information to direct forces quickly to the right place. The idea is simple: if you can't see clearly, you can't strike accurately. If the enemy can't coordinate, their large force becomes slow and vulnerable. Technology is used to level the playing field, and in many ways to tip it. Act 4. Control the choke points. The Pacific has a few narrow places where the world's trade must pass. These are choke points: straits, passages, and island chains. If you control them, you control shipping. American submarines and surface ships take stations near those choke points. One sits near the Strait of Malacca, another sits at the edge of the South China Sea. Together they can watch and, if needed, stop major shipping routes that carry goods for the entire planet. Small islands, normally quiet, suddenly become crucial. Marines move onto tiny Japanese islands, places with few people and few defenses. Within hours, these islands host radars, missiles, and fuel for aircraft. From those little outposts, aircraft can patrol key sea lanes and stop ships moving in certain directions. The tactic is not to blockade every port, it's to hold the critical choke points that shape movement across much of East Asia. If those are denied to an attacker, the attacker cannot bring its full force to bear. Act 5. the show of force. By the second day, the Pacific looks very different. Carrier groups and squadrons of fighters patrol the skies. Submarines guard the sea below. Transport planes and ships keep the forward bases supplied. Electronic systems keep the enemy unable to see clearly. All this is designed to make any invading force pause. In China's war rooms, commanders run the math. They model losses and logistics. Their simulations, the same kind of war games both sides run, show a brutal reality. Pressing an invasion will likely result in heavy losses and an unclear victory. The costs, both military and economic, look catastrophic. At the same time, markets react. Insurance companies refuse to cover ships moving through the high-risk areas. Ports rethink routes. Companies issue warnings about supply disruptions. The pocketbook consequences put additional pressure on leaders to choose restraint over escalation. At a certain point, the pressure of a coordinated, visible, and invisible response forces a choice. Keep pushing and risk disaster, or stand down and call it an exercise. Act 6. The pause. In many simulations, the tipping point comes without a single shot fired. The invading fleet halts. Commanders in Beijing find their communications noisy and incomplete. Their ships cannot move freely without being vulnerable to strikes from the air, sea, or submarines. At the same time, economic pressure builds. Insurance costs spike. Trade grinds toward chaos. Diplomatic channels warm. Allies and neutral countries call for calm. A third party, a nation with ties to both sides, offers to mediate. An arrangement is found that allows both sides to save face. The fleet withdraws, and the public story is that the exercises are over. The show works. The attack is avoided. The crisis ends before it becomes a war. Act 7. The aftermath. The impact of a successful two-day plan goes beyond the military. Companies request naval escorts, insurers change their policies, and global trade routes shift. American forces now play a more visible role in keeping these waters safe. For China, the setback is quieter but real. Its navy is strong, but for now boxed in, unable to move freely without risk, and its prestige takes a hit. For Taiwan, surviving the crisis preserves the semiconductor supply chain, at least for now, while also exposing the island's vulnerability. The world sees that deterrence depends not just on local defenses, but on how fast and decisively others can respond. The plan is simple: act fast to shape the fight, watch everything with satellites and drones, use allies to extend reach, control key choke points, and let economic pressure force the enemy to rethink their moves. Put together, these elements make it extremely costly for an attacker to win in the short term. If the costs are too high, even a determined leader may decide the pause is the better choice. Even the smartest plan depends on people. Marines landing on a quiet island may be the first to face danger. Submariners spend weeks in cramped silence, and intelligence officers work long shifts interpreting life and death data. Leaders, too, must make brutal choices, weighing the immediate risk to a few against the potential for catastrophe. No plan is perfect. Fast action can be misread. Supply lines are costly to maintain. Allies may hesitate, and unpredictable factors like weather or technical failures can disrupt operations. Yet the stakes are too high to ignore. Taiwan matters because it makes the chips that power the modern world. The Pacific matters because global trade flows through it. A crisis here ripples across economies, politics, and daily life. Factories stop, supply chains collapse, and prices soar. The two-day plan is not just about winning a fight. It is about keeping the world's systems intact and showing that the price of aggression is simply too high. When the fleet turns back, the victory is quiet. No parades, no public surrender. But the result is real. The Pacific stays contested, the future uncertain. Yet the lesson is clear. In a world of fast-moving threats, speed, unity, and precision can prevent disaster. In the next great crisis, the real winner may be the one who moves fastest, because sometimes being first is the only way to avoid the fight. 2 days. That's all it takes to change everything, or to keep the world from changing forever.